Property is essential in human life. Humans will always be proud of their material position and endowments. In Surah Al-Imran, verse 14, adorned and made lovely for human beings the love of things that last seeks, such as women and children, abundant wealth such as gold and silver, well-trained market-bred horse, and livestock and orchids. All of this is what it is like to live in the world, and the best return is with Allah. Because property holds such a great value in people's life and plays such a crucial part in their existence, that's why Islam provides the Hakam law, which ensures property ownership. To protect the owner of property, Islam has established a suitable punishment that can prohibit the fabrication of property rights by trespassing on the property of others. So, in this topic, we can relate that the Sustainable Development Goals (SDG) suit this goal system, which is peace, justice, and strong institution. So, in this video, we will be discussing the topics of private property and social needs, the Islamic notion of ownership, how to preserve private property, and why private property rights are good to society. We also will cover how Zakat helps with social need and explain what form of sirah is related to social needs.
Next, how to protect private property. An owner of a building will have the freedom to live in it, rent it out to others, or demolish it in a society that give owners complete private property rights. There are some important rights about property that every owner must know, such as right of possession, rights of control, rights of exclusion, rights of derived income, and lastly, rights of disposition. Firstly, rights of possession is if anyone holds title to a property that owns or possesses it. Next, rights of control means owners typically have authority over how their properties are used, but they must follow any applicable subdivision or neighborhood organization regulations. Thirdly, the rights of exclusion is when other individuals can be barred from entering your house or intruding on your lands, and this right is usually carefully protected. Fourthly, rights to derive income from private property. For example, owners can make money by renting out their property to an individual or a company. In other words, they can do whatever they want to generate income from the property as long as it does not break the zoning regulations. For the last rights are the rights of disposition. Disposition refers to a property owner's ability to transfer ownership to another person even after their death through a will. In Islam, Allah is the sole creator of everything and every life in the whole universe. Allah says in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 29, which means, "It is He who created for you all of that which is on earth. Then He directed Himself to heaven, His being above all creation, and made them 7 heavens, and He is knowing of all things." Therefore, man has no absolute ownership of wealth and properties. He is a trustee and a vicegerent of Allah who has been entrusted to utilize them according to Allah's instruction. This belief sets Islamic economic system apart from the other two standards economic system, whereby individuals are considered either directly as owners of all private property, which is capitalism, or collectively as owners of all property, which is socialism. An individual has the right to property through lawful means. Allah mentions in Surah An-Nisa, verse 32, "And do not crave what Allah has given some of you over others. Men will be rewarded according to their deeds, and women equally according to theirs. Rather, ask Allah for His bounties. Surely Allah has perfect knowledge of all things." The verse explicitly recognizes the individual's right to own, inherit, and sell the property whenever he likes. It also recognizes all other rights which go along with the right of ownership, such as the right to safeguard one's property from theft and any forms of unlawful possession of someone's property by force or deceit. Next, one of the categories in Makasih Syariah is Daruriyat, which contains hifz al-mal, which means protection of property. Everyone has the property right to have all the necessary protection and security for that property. Lastly, wealth and property in Islam are both responsibility and accountability. It is a trust from Allah to be utilized and managed in accordance to His will, which is befitting one's position as a Khalifah of Allah on the earth.
After you hearing about the introduction, the concept, and the way to protect private property right, you now must wondering on why private property right is beneficial to society. So now, here I am to answer the question. Firstly, private property rights will benefit economic progress and incentive to work. Without private property rights, there is no incentive to work. Individuals have an incentive to earn, invest, and accumulate wealth when they own private property. Human desires are infinite, and private property allows humans to accumulate wealth and satisfies future desires. This will encourage people to work. This can be for their own consumption, but it can also be for the benefit of the next generation. Secondly, private property rights protect society from government control. The government ease of reclaiming property is a serious concern. Many systems attempt to prevent this through the allocation of private property rights. The US government, for example, has a power known as eminent domain. This allows for the confiscation of private property for public use in exchange for a fair price. However, this price is frequently lower than the owner's value that will persecute the society. We can see a direct correlation between strong property rights and prosperity when we look at countries with strong property rights. Singapore and Hong Kong rank highly in terms of property rights, whereas Venezuela and Haiti rank among the lowest. Thirdly, private property rights have a good impact on agriculture and food security. When farmers have formal private property rights for their land, they will be more likely to invest in it, such as by installing irrigation systems and using better quality of seeds. Fourthly, the value of private property rights can benefit the ecosystem. As an illustration, fishing is a well-known area in the absence of private property rights. This can lead to excessive consumption. If a fisher has rights to a specific area of the sea, it is in their best interest to ensure that there will be enough fish in the long run. In another scenario, individuals and communities are more likely to be concerned for their land when they have formal private property rights. For instance, from Indonesia, when the government granted villagers in Indonesia's Sembungan region a private property rights, the villagers rushed to protect their recently titled property deep in the rainforest. Fifthly, private property rights act to make communities more resilient. Formal private property rights serve as both a preventative and a curative measure in a time of crisis. When rights are formally recognized, communities can recover more quickly when things go wrong. Formal private property rights are essential to community recovery in the fallout of forced displacement, natural disasters, or war. For example, consider Haiti after the 2010 earthquake devastated the country. This tragedy had a great disadvantage to the Haitian people because thousands of people were displaced as a result of the disaster, allowing developers to seize their home and land, leaving about 85,000 people displaced as of 2015. Finally, private property rights are a critical tool for women's empowerment. Several studies have found that women benefit from land rights. According to one recent publication based on USAID data, women with strong land rights were 3 times more likely to work off farm, earn up to 3.8 times more income, and were 1.35 times more likely to have individual savings. The data clearly shows that private property rights give more enthusiasm for women to improve their lives successfully. This eventually will elevate women's power in the eyes of the world.
What is zakat? Why is zakat? So basically, zakat means purify and sanctify. As we all know, every year Muslims are obliged to give zakat as it is fardu kifayah for Muslim as commanded by Allah. In Surah Al-Bayyinah verse 5, it means and they were not commanded except to worship Allah, being sincere to Him in a religion, inclining to the truth, and to establish prayer and to give zakat, and that is the correct religion. So, in the Islamic economic system, zakat is one of the instruments contributing to society, which a rich wealth proportion should distribute to poor communities. Zakat divided into 8 categories in Al-Quran. The first one is the fakir. the needy, the collector, the debtor, encouragement to Islam, ransoming of slaves in the cause of Allah, and the wayfarers. So whatever Allah has mentioned in the Quran is oblique. The question is, how does zakat help in our social needs? So according to the researcher Dubai Habibullah, if every believer is performing zakat, it will reduce poverty among Muslim and also non-Muslim. Zakat can meet their basic need in daily life, such as shelter, food, water, education, healthcare, to support their life as usual. So, to minimize poverty, zakat must be distributed proportionally according to the zakat policy. Secondly, zakat can reduce the gap between the poor and the rich people in society. The circulation in zakat system creates fairness in a community if there is no corruption. Moreover, the percentage of beggars will decrease slowly and increase their standard of living. By imposing the zakat, Muslims always be reminded every year that their property is just temporary in dunya. It will force someone to feel sympathy and empathy towards poor groups. It helps a Muslim trust 100% and have a deep in faith in Allah SWT to adhere to His commands and to attain His Jannah in hereafter. Inshallah.
Private property is commonly regarded as a form of property rights, or also can be known as ownership. Ownership in Islam are initially derived from an Arabic word called al-Milkiyah. It refers to the legal relationship that exists among human beings and property that binds the property to him. In the absence of a valid restriction to a precise dealing, this relationship gives the owner the right to deal in that property. Property rights, according to classical jurists, play a crucial role in an Islamic economic system. The legal ownership of a property guarantees the owner has an exclusive right of use and deals as long as no legal hindrance exists in his interactions. That is to say, if a person has a valid object, he or she is free to profit from it, whether by selling or pawning it, either directly or via the middleman of another person. All treasures can be owned. However, there are situations when something prevents the prize from being owned. It is separated into three categories based on the ability to be owned or not. First, treasures which could not be completely possessed, at-tamlik, and possessed by one. This wealth is dedicated to the public goods, for instance, public highways, buildings, lakes, and museums. Second, treasures which can only be possessed due to a reason specified by Shara. For example, wakaf properties which can be owned according to the cost of certain property. Third, treasures that can be possessed at tamalluk and owned at tamlik entirely with no terms or limitations. It is crucial to remember that there are some things to think about when it comes to owning a specific item or piece of property. The Quran expressly forbids the stockpiling of goods and the monopolization of specific things, specifically when it damages other people or the society as a whole. It is indeed worth remembering that, in the end, all belongs to Allah and men are merely caretakers on the planet.
Okay, next we will continue the next main question, which is there any serum related to social needs? Social needs are a necessity for everybody regardless what time they live in, where they live in, and many more. So, people who live in Prophet Muhammad ﷺ era also need a social need as people who live in this modernization era. So, to answer this question, I will talk about three things, which are Baitul Mal, the social needs between Muhajirin and Ansar, and the story about Usman bin Affan infaq the wealth for the society usage.
Baitul Mal is an institution synonym with Islamic financial organization from Prophet Muhammad SAW era. Generally, Baitul Mal is an institution that become a center for the collection of national revenue or property store for the country, similar to the role played by the finance ministry in this modernization era. There are many resources of Baitul Mal in Prophet Muhammad SAW era, like jizyah revenue, agriculture revenue, fire property, ghanimah property, and many more. All this property used by the Baitul Mal to fulfill the social needs for all people in Prophet Muhammad SAW era. Next, The brotherhood between the Muhajirin and Ansar can be classified as sirah related to social needs. Muhajirin is the early followers of Prophet Muhammad SAW who emigrated from Makkah to Medina, and Ansar is a group that helped Prophet Muhammad SAW and all the Muhajirin to build life in Medina when they emigrate to Medina, as at that time they do not have anything when they emigrate. There is a hadith narrated by Anas bin Malik about Abdul Rahman bin Auf and Sa'ad bin Rabi' that illustrate the brotherhood between Muhajir and Ansar. When Abdul Rahman bin Auf came to Medina and the Prophet established the bond of brotherhood between him and Sa'ad, Sa'ad suggests that Abdul Rahman should accept half of his property and family. Lastly, there is also a sirah about the well of Rumah. This well can be classified as the social needs for the Medina people, as it is one of the sources of the remaining water supply when the dry season hits Medina. The people of Medina and the Muhajirin at that time had trouble getting the clean water, as the well is owned by a Jew and he charged them with a high price. Because of that, Uthman bin Affan willing to use his own wealth to buy the well even with high price for the social needs of Medina people and the Muhajirin. Uthman didn't care about his own wealth but more prioritized about Allah's pleasure.
As a recap, we already told on how to protect private property. Besides, we also have stated the reason private property rights are beneficial to the society. Then, we also discussed the way Zakat helps in social need. Zakat helps in social need as it can reduce poverty and reduce the gap between the poor and the rich people in the society. Lastly, we tried to sort out any sirah related to social need. From our studies, we can sort 3 sirah related to social needs, which are Baitul Mal, Muhajirin and Ansar, and the story of Uthman bin Affan when he infaqed the well for the society usage. At the end of the day, private property and social needs will always come together. People with many private properties will donate some money from their source of income to give to community services. In Islam, we are encouraged to help each other, as stated in Surah Al-Ma'idah verse 2.
وتعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الإثم والعدوان.
We may conclude from the above verse that living in this world necessitates collaboration with one another, unity in life's activities, and obedience to Allah and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A Muslim is more obligated to assist others rather than seek the profit from others. This is because helping others is part of Islamic teachings, which are full of love and appreciation. Furthermore, every good we do for others will flow back to us for our own good. In Quran, Allah says in Surah Al-Isra verse 7,
إن أحسنتم أحسنتم لأنفسكم.
Finally, supporting those who are nearby to us and who engage with us on a daily basis is a wonderful action in His eyes. That's all from me. Thank you for watching. May Allah guide us and protect us and ease our way in everything. InsyaAllah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.